Story of the Titanic. Have you heard that it sank because it hit an iceberg? Well, that's wrong. Here's the true story of the Titanic. The breeze blew as the gigantic ship docked by. The ship read Titanic on it. Thousands of passengers came aboard the cruise. "Honey dear, I'll only be back in a week or so," said a woman. The woman was trimmed with golden blonde hair along with famous locks. "Yes, Salusa," said a man. The woman was revealed to be named Salusa. The man was handsome. He was a ladies' man, any man that a woman was happy to be with. Salusa jumped onto the cruise and waved at her husband. "Goodbye, Jonathan," she smiled. The man was named Jonathan. As they both forbid their farewells, Salusa stared at the horizon. She was going to visit her sick aunt in the Caribbean. The only way to get there was by a cruise or boat. She stared at the dusk fell in the soon midnight sky. All the stars glittered beautifully. Salusa was only in her room putting on her makeup and jewelry as she was getting ready for a full-course dinner at the luxurious restaurant in the cruise. The woman took a step down to the restaurant where she was seated by a classy young man. Salusa literally fell for him, but she was already married. The man walked up to her, smiling. "Hello there," he greeted. Salusa smiled happily and greeted back. He introduced her to the table where Salusa sat and smiled. The man introduced himself. "My name is Edward," he smiled. Salusa introduced herself too. Trimmed with good looks, the man had the most handsome face any woman had ever seen. He was more of a ladies' man than Jonathan. He had a posh combed blonde hair with ocean blue eyes along a large smile. At night, Salusa knew everything about Edward, and she went to her bedroom with him. There, they had made love and created feelings for each other. Salusa knew she was cheating, but she didn't think about that since she was spending the night with a handsome young fellow. As days passed, it was Thursday, April 11th. Salusa was asleep in her bed, and as she awoke with Edward in bed with her, suddenly the telephone rang. She awoke and answered it, only to hear her husband talking. "Yes, I am having a good time indeed," she laughed to Jonathan on the telephone. Edward awoke pretending to be asleep. As he heard the entire conversation, his head turned red, feeling outrageous. When lunch came, Edward confronted Salusa about having a husband. He slapped her furiously. "How dare you! You betrayed me!" he shouted. He ended their relationship, stomping out of the room. Suddenly he warned her, "But know this, you will die very soon. You will," he very clearly said. Edward got onto a telephone at the restaurant. A manly deep voice answered the phone. "Boss, have you got any axes left?" he said evilly. On Friday, April 12th, Salusa was awoken from her slumber to hear the telephone ring. She tossed herself across the bed and answered it. "Hello?" she answered. Strangely, no one was there. Her door mysteriously opened and creaked, only to see a man dressed in black standing there, with a mask on. "Die!" the black figure said. Salusa screamed and ran straight into the bathroom, breathing heavily. The feminine body laid on the floor, dead. The black figure stumbled across the captain at the front of the Titanic. Feeling livid, He held a pickaxe, staring at the captain. The captain fell on the floor dead. The mysterious figure broke the engine of the cruise and caused it to stop nearby an iceberg, which was clearly doing no harm. The ship started to fall into the ocean. Facing down to the water, everyone on the ship screamed and cried as they all grabbed boats and swam away. Feeling yet again livid, the figure raised his shotgun and killed many people on the boats and in the Titanic. He stared at a young man holding his young toddler, both crying. "Please don't kill me, please! I beg of you," the man begged. The figure stared at and shot the toddler, making the man scream. He took another stare at the man, shooting him in the head. A beautiful teenage attractive girl was lost on the ship, looking for her mother. "Mother, please, please," she screamed. As she got lost in a room, the black figure stood there smiling evilly. He grabbed hold of her and raped her over and over, making her cry and yell. He grabbed a knife from his pocket and stabbed her 5 times, brutally murdering her and tossing her body off the cruise. As everyone shrieked, the beautiful ship fell to its death. Sinking into the ocean, a black figure mysteriously disappeared. A few days later, news broke out saying that the Titanic sank, killing thousands of people. A witness named Edward Jones reported to the news saying how the Titanic crashed into an iceberg. As everyone believed him and couldn't find any evidence, they decided to leave it for years, leaving it as a lie to forbid the true secret of the Titanic. When years passed by, a scientist genius figured out the true secret of the Titanic. As they wanted to report to the news about it, the same black figure that was shown on the Titanic appeared in Percy's room. "You will never tell anyone about the true secret of the Titanic," warned the dark figure. He brutally murdered the person, leaving the secret forever uncovered. 14 years before the famous Titanic sank into the North Atlantic Ocean, a man named Morgan Andrew Robertson wrote a book about a ship. The title of the book was Futility. The ship was a triple screw with a very few lifeboats, but no one really worried. It was practically unsinkable. It was the largest ship ever created and could hold a capacity of 3,000 passengers and crew members. In the end, 2,500 passengers and crew boarded the ship. Then, on one April night, moving at 25 knots, the ship struck an iceberg, and on its starboard side, it was in the North Atlantic when it sank. 400 nautical miles from Newfoundland, more than half of the passengers on board perished. There are only 2 differences between this fictional ship and the real Titanic. The Titanic was moving at 22.5 knots when it hit the iceberg, and it only had 2,200 passengers and crew members on board. As for the name of this fictional ship, it was called the Titan.